finding it hard to reach over and turn it. If it wasn't for the fact that her hands were shaking, she'd have thought she was paralyzed. "How could he do a thing like that?" she whispered. "Haven't I been telling you for the last 3 years? The guy's scum," said Michael. "He does have a temper," Moira admitted. But was he really that bad? If he wasn't, why was she sitting here in her car ready to bolt? Michael let out a disgusted snort. "Girl, you are the queen of understatement." Okay, Lang had issues, but didn't everybody? That goon has slapped you around, broken your arm, and made you feel like the bottom of the shit pile. And now this. Come on, Moira. It's a cosmic message. Are you getting it? Yes, she was. Although if Lang hadn't done what he'd done to Harry, she'd never have dreamed of leaving. In spite of the problems they'd had, she'd still loved him. And feared him. No, not fear. It was more like she'd treated him with care. Lang was a man who had to be finessed, the same way she would finesse a haircut. You had to do things just so, or it got ugly. She could take the ugly. Wasn't that what love was all about? You accepted the person, faults and all. But to hurt a defenseless animal? That was a deal breaker. She couldn't stay. Of course, he would come to the salon on his lunch hour to make sure they were good, maybe even bring her one of those chocolate roses you saw in all the drugstores in February because he knew how much she adored them. So romantic. And he'd assure her that all was well, they were fine, and they belonged together. It was how they rolled. No matter where they were or how hard they fought, she always wound up back home with him. He'd tell her that he'd never meant to hurt her. He loved her. She just made him so mad. Why did she always have to push his buttons? She'd ask herself the same thing. Tell him she was sorry, and then it would be as if nothing ever happened. Him putting an arm around her as they sat on the couch watching TV. Except she'd have a purpling memento on her cheek or a sprained wrist. One time, it was a broken jaw. But what had she expected? That time she'd mouthed off to him, called him the scum Michael said he was. She told the emergency room doctor that she'd tripped and fallen on her face. She never told people what really happened when Lang accidentally hurt her. People asked too many questions, and their relationship was, well, complicated. So no matter how concerned a doctor would look, no matter what questions he'd ask, she always stuck to her story. Anyway, how did you explain that you were as much at fault as your boyfriend? She knew whose fault last night was, though, and it wasn't hers, and she wasn't staying. Something Lang had said back in January crouched at the back of her mind, like death slipping into the back row of a church at a funeral. They'd gone out on New Year's Eve and had rung in the new year with beer and a major fight. He'd accused her of flirting with another guy. She'd insisted she hadn't been, and it had all slid into ugliness from there. The next morning, she'd been covering her black eye with makeup, and once more, they'd had that conversation about who'd really been the problem. "You make me crazy, Moira, but I love you," he'd said. "I couldn't live without you." So romantic. "If you ever left me, I swear to God I'd kill you." So romantic? She'd tried to lighten the moment. You wouldn't even miss me. You'd just sit around drinking beer and playing call to arms with your online buddies and blowing each other up. His eyes had turned to slits and his jaw to granite. "What's that supposed to mean? Are you saying I ignore you?" Wrong move. She'd backpedaled quickly. "No, it was a joke. Jeez." "Well, I didn't think it was funny." What would he think if he came home from the office today and found her gone? A chill crept up her spine. Her heart rate picked up and she felt suddenly sick. She shot a look over her shoulder, half expecting Lang to come driving back in his fancy car. "What am I going to do?" she whispered into her phone. "You're going to get out of here," Michael said. "I need to take Harry to the vet." "Take him to the vet in another town." Another town? Michael might as well have said another universe. She was moving out, but she hadn't thought of moving that far out. She'd always lived in Seattle, grown up in the city, the fringe ends and not the best neighborhoods, but still, it was what she knew. The farthest she'd ever gotten outside the city limits had been a day trip to Wild Waves in nearby Federal Way.